How's it
That's all I
going?
have to say. That's all I have to say about that. That's all I'm going to say. Sean, my name is Harry Shoemaker. I am the publisher of Beer Business Daily, and you are on BeerNet Radio. Congratulations. You made it to the
I'm
top.
I'm finally here. I can retire now. I've been saving my
Yes.
money my entire life for the moment that Harry had me on the podcast. And so happy days. I
Yes.
have 20 minutes left in my life at COOP Aleworks. And Harry, it's good to be
Well,
with you, man.
Biscuit is very excited. Ocean water is her favorite flavor, followed closely by cherry limeade. So she's very excited for Coop to be rolling out Sonic hard seltzer in Texas, which is going on right now. Is that right?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm excited to see that yellow girl there is on the couch. I'm fond of and have always had either yellow or black labs my entire life. So I'm
They're
taking
exquisitely stupid and rambunctious, but they are loyal and great dogs.
they're great. So yeah, now all joking aside, it's been a whirlwind, almost 2 weeks
So wait,
since we launched.
and I'm sorry, I'm
No worries.
terrible at introducing.
Yeah,
You know,
sure.
introducing. This is Sean Mossman. He's the president of COOP Aleworks in Oklahoma City. They have a great lineup of craft beers for 10 or 11 years going, but all in very popular in Oklahoma. But also, and I'd like to get into this a little bit.
Mhm.
They struck a deal with Sonic Drive-In with their really iconic flavors of non-alc drinks that they've been serving for years.
First of all, without getting into the details, yeah, it's been a whirlwind launching in Texas, Nebraska, Missouri, Arkansas, and Kansas. And to your point a little bit, we are a 12-year-old craft brewery. We're the biggest here in our home state from a volumetric perspective, and we've built our foundation here over 12 years. And we had distribution relationships in the states that I just described on the craft beer side, and we were excited to bring a lot of those distributors into the fold when we were able to convince Sonic Drive-In, which wasn't really difficult to convince, that's not the right word, that we should partner together to get into the hard seltzer business with their non-alc drinks. And you're right. I mean, I'm presuming you grew up in Texas. You're probably dyed-in-the-wool Texan. I grew up in Oklahoma, where Sonic was founded, and I would say that whether I could claim I was legal drinking age or not, I engaged in a lot of the same activities with Sonic's non-alcoholic drinks that you did. And listen, for those of you that maybe aren't from the South, it is nothing that Sonic would ever endorse, nor would I suggest that they do. But the fact that ocean water and cherry limeade are mixers for many people is not news to anybody. And so this seemed like a pretty perfect relationship to create. And so we're really fortunate. We thought of this idea about a year ago. We launched a local centric seltzer called Will and Wiley here in our home market, just really trying to take some share of seltzer here in Oklahoma, not with the intent of trying to build that brand outside of the state. And cherry limeade was our most popular flavor. And so at some point we started to see Topo Chico and Molson Coors get together, and like Yingling and Hershey's and Dunkin' and Harpoon. And we just kind of saw this blending and marriage of non-alc and alc brands collaborating together. And we took that idea to Sonic, and it was really immediately well received, almost an instant, yes, let's go do this. And so the
What a
developmental
brilliant
process.
idea. I mean,
Thanks.
y'all are both based in Oklahoma City, so it does make sense that. Did you already have a relationship with? Sorry, my mic is going every. Did you already have a relationship with them, or did you just like cold call them?
No, so I had a personal relationship with a couple of executives at Sonic, just being here in the community, and both of us really being very heavily involved in things like nonprofit charitable events in the community. And I worked in a previous life with the CEO's husband 12, 14 years ago, and so I had some relationships at the senior level, and I just had my to be honest with you, I had my agency quietly, privately mock up a Sonic hard seltzer can, and I texted it to the senior VP of PR, who I knew from the community, with just and the text messages simply said, if you think this is the dumbest idea in the world, don't show it around the building. And if you think it's great, show it around and let me know what you think. And she sent me a text back about a week later. she's like, "Hey, what's your email address?" And then my response was, "Well, if it's a cease and desist, don't worry, nobody's seen this. But if we want to talk about a deal, then here's my email address." And she laughed and said, "No, it's a." And so at any rate, that's how we dug in. I mean, it was a little cold cally, but it was with a relationship that was established years before.
Right. And I mean, it's a no-brainer, really. But on the other hand, there's a lot, as you know, more than anybody, that goes into creating a new brand that already has equity and it can, is already well known.
Yeah,
And it's just a license deal, right? It's like
it is.
you just kind of pay them for the name, but you're kind of running the distribution and
It is. Yep.
sales.
Yep, that's exactly right. It's a licensing deal, and we work really closely with Sonic. And I think, in the years since we started talking, what I would say is the most sacred responsibility and the most stress that we've had as an organization in the year development and getting to market has been really creating flavors that don't disappoint, that don't fall short of what the Sonic fan expects, what the real true Sonic fan. Now, it's a hard seltzer. Will it taste exactly like an ocean water? We can't recreate that without some different things that really we won't want to do in alcoholic beverages. And I don't want to get there. But what I don't want to happen, and what we really felt like we had a sacred trust to do, was to make sure that that Sonic fan was as big a fan of the ocean water alcoholic beverage or cherry limeade, seltzer version as they were of the non-alc version. And in some are not, to be completely fair, but the vast majority, the overwhelming majority, and we're super proud of this from a product development perspective, have come back to us and said, "This tastes great. I've loved Sonic my whole life, and I love this drink." And that is that, again, that sacred trust that was given to us, we took very seriously. And I think humbly, our product development people really nailed it. And we worked very closely with Sonic's innovation team to get that there. And I'm so proud of the beverage that's in the can.
That's hard to do, I would think. And because you're right, fans of Sonic's drinks are fans, and they, it's almost like you said, a sacred trust. And cherry limeade is a part of my DNA.
Yeah.
So it better be good. I haven't tried it yet, but I'm looking forward to it. But I know that you've tweaked the formulation and packaging and such. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, we've certainly had. It's fair to say we've certainly had 3 iterations of the Sonic seltzer flavors as we've developed the process. So the first round, we manufactured it in our facility, which is a relatively small facility. Just for context, we did about 20,000 barrels of craft beer out of our facility last year. Probably have capacity in the 55 to 60,000 range if we ran full out all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we started launching the Oklahoma market with product that we made in our facility. And our sugar alcohol base that we used as the foundation for the first round is slightly different than our first contract manufacturer, who was using a slightly different profile sugar alcohol base. And so we believe that we had a little bit of an improvement into the second round, and then as we moved to our long-term co-packing production facility, the relationship that we expect to have, where all of our product will come out of Memphis with City Brewing. As we moved into there, we really worked with the City Brewing team with their sugar alcohol base to try to get to those iconic Sonic flavors. And the internal team is very happy with both, the expertise that City brought, the expertise that Sonic brought, and what we brought to the table. And combined between the 3, I think we have flavors now in this third iteration that are amongst the best that are in the market.
That's okay. So well, shit, what was I going to say? Let's get
Harry,
Jordan, why don't you just
while Harry's figuring out what he had to say, I was going to ask, through these reformulations and through this whole process, how involved has Sonic been?
Locked at the hip, and we're so grateful for that, right? Because when you're tasked with presenting a flavor profile to the Sonic fans that will represent what they enjoy about Sonic, you really need Sonic at your side. And so we're super grateful to have had the innovation team, a guy named Scott Uline, another guy named Grant Springer over at Sonic, who were with us every step of the way, to the extent that they flew into Wisconsin and traveled to places with us to be on site at production facilities, to taste packages off the line, and to help us, with our brewers, really get that sensory experience dialed into where it is now. And so certainly, we talk about reformulations, and the reality is it's not so much, and I'm not trying to correct you, it's not so much a reformulation, it's that every production facility has different attributes, has different water profiles, has different, whatever that is. And so throughout the process, what's really had to happen is it's as simple as we had to maybe dial up the cherry and cherry limeade by 2% at this new facility because of the properties of the liquid, or we had to dial the lime down X%. So it was, I don't use tweaks as sort of a defensive word versus reformulation, but it really was just essentially retweaking the formula to really complement the profile of the base of alcohol that was created at the facility that we were at.
Right. And I remember when y'all launched, and it was a huge success in Oklahoma City. I think you got to like 20 share of seltzer, right?
Very close.
Like Memorial Day.
Yep.
And then, then you had supply issues with cans and such. And now you're switching to a slim can, which I guess the supply is eased on that. Like you can get slim cans now easier.
Yeah. And you guys have done a great job of covering the supply chain challenges for the last year plus. And so when we launched their sleek cans, slim cans, whatever they're called, there was really zero availability. And that had everything to do with all the available information about what the forecast looked like for White Claw, Truly, and others that were in sleek cans. Michelob Ultra consumes a ton of sleek cans, right? So looking at their growth potential into 2021, there really was no availability. And so what really changed, and we knew we were going to eventually get to sleek cans. We wanted to get there sooner than later. What really eventually changed is that the forecasts for especially seltzer were significantly higher than what was realized, right? And so that was obviously some trial and error stuff, and we've seen a lot of fallout from that. But that's a category that's still growing 25% year over year, just not 75%. So because it wasn't going at 75, 85%, then sleek can availability was freed up, and we were able to secure a domestic supplier for sleek cans, not only this year, but we also have as many as 20 million cases of sleek can capabilities available to us next year as we expand into additional states. And we have that much contract production facility under contract as well for next year. So we have secured really the supply chain necessary for us to give full speed out the runway.
And what is the runway? I mean, you say you settled kind of to 11 or 10% share of seltzer in your home state.
Yep.
And then, so now you're expanding to, what are the 6 states? Texas, Kansas, Missouri,
Arkansas, Nebraska.
Okay.
Yep.
And so when you're fully like out in those states, where do you see your share of seltzer kind of,
Sure.
So the reason I'm asking is because Jenn and I are at odds. Jenn Litz.
Yeah, of course. She does a great job.
Right. And I was like, that brand, Sonic Seltzer, is going to be it's going to be national 4 share of seltzer or 5. And if it's not in 6 months, then I have to buy her a steak dinner at Perry's in Austin. So there's real money involved here, Sean. This is serious business. I mean, a steak at Perry's is not cheap. So I hope you, but no, I think there's huge potential because like I said, maybe I'm just old, but those drinks are iconic, and everybody knows about them. So, are you, I suppose I would assume that you've surpassed COOP Aleworks craft portfolio in volume.
Yes. There's no doubt that we have. And, when we were just Oklahoma only, we had such a foothold in Oklahoma with the craft side that the Sonic volume and the COOP beer volume were pretty much equivalent over the last few months in this market. And so, Harry, we've to your point, we launched with a 17 share Memorial Day. We initially forecasted 5 share, and we loaded our distributor up with 4 weeks of inventory to sustain a 5 share, and then started producing more product. we put it into the market and we got a 17 share Memorial Day weekend, and it was off the floor in the retailers in 4 days. So we created a problem for ourselves that was a good problem to have, as they say out there. But we had to get back, we had to get back in stock. We went back out again. It sold through very quickly. We went back out again. It sold through very quickly. And so now we've got our supply chain in place. We've got our production in place. We feel good. So with that consistency, now we're settled in at about a 12 share here in Oklahoma. And again, it is Oklahoma where Sonic is. But, there's a saturation of Sonics in Texas is the highest per capita in the country. Third is Tennessee.
There's 2 Sonics within walking distance of my house.
Yeah, right.
So I get to choose from. What am I get the chili cheese dog from this Sonic?
Yep.
Or that Sonic? And honestly, doesn't matter. When are you coming out with a chili cheese dog flavored seltzer? Go ahead. So you were saying.
Listen, what I don't want to do is get on here and get out over my skis and make these bold proclamations for how much market share we're going to get. I'm confident you're right, Harry. I'm confident you're going to be enjoying a steak for free at some point in the next year.
Well, see, that's the thing about when you bet Jenn, like she doesn't buy me a steak if she loses. There's nothing happens. So in other words, there's only downside for me when I bet Jenn. Why am I betting Jenn, Jordan, anymore? What is this going on? This is unfair.
So I'll make you a deal. The day I open up Nielsen, we have a 5 share nationally. I'm flying down to buy you a steak. How about that?
Okay.
All right.
Now
there
we're talking, Sean. I'm hedging bets.
Good. So, that said, again, you just want to be careful about bold proclamations because there's just a lot of work to do and there are a lot of variables that are involved. And we believe we have a very strong brand. Obviously, you recognize the brand equity that's involved with the Sonic brand and how important that is. What has been the eye opener for what it's worth is we've built the distribution network is this perception that the brand can't extend above the so-called Mason-Dixon line, that this is a Southern brand from Arizona to Florida, Georgia, South Carolina. And what's been great has been the response from the distributors. When you put out an article that announces that COOP is expanding to 6 additional states, within days, I'm getting a call from the Bud Network in Michigan. Like, no doubt, there's 17 Sonics in Michigan. The Bud Network in Michigan is calling and asking if they can be part of this in Connecticut and Massachusetts and in places that you would think, hey, this doesn't really make a lot of sense. But let's also not forget that Sonic is so large and so widespread that even though there may be only a few stores in that state, the national advertising plays all the time in those states, right? So they're not buying regional advertising in the South. If they're doing Sonic drive-in burger special TV commercials, they're running during the SEC game and CBS at 2:30 on Saturday everywhere in the country, right? So there's brand recognition just about everywhere. And we've been really pleased with the notion that, for instance, we're going to be working with Watkins Distributing in Idaho sometime next year. That contract is done and dusted, right? Really great folks. Travis is amazing. And we're working with the Montana network and the Wyoming network and places that you wouldn't necessarily think would have been really coming to us with a request to be part of the opportunity. So I think we're really excited about the notion that this brand seems to not necessarily be kind of pigeonholed to the South. It'd be okay if it was, because this is a David and Goliath story where we're going from where we were very localized to even a regional 5 share would be an amazing result for us. But I think you're right. I hope you're right. We have so much work to do, and we're excited about the work ahead of us.
Well, and that's the thing, is that you get to benefit from Sonic's national advertising, even if there's no Sonics, in that market. It still gets up here, and then they go buy the brand. Now, let's talk distribution for a second. So you obviously have a network already, and kind of 3 or 4 states around Oklahoma, right? And so you already had that network. What about beyond that? And who do you kind of lean toward? Are you more of a blue network or red or mix?
So we're, from an ethic perspective, we're agnostic to the colors and the most, of course. What we're really looking for is a judgment as to who's going to put the most energy and effort and excitement, who needs this brand in their portfolio more than their competitors. And the way it's really shaking out is that more frequently than not, Bud distributors need more seltzer brands and good quality seltzer brands in their portfolio. And that's not always a rule, but it's a generality. And so in a lot of places that we're going, the Bud Network is getting together because they don't have White Claw or they don't have Truly, and they're looking for tools to get themselves, beyond Bud Light and Mick Ultra and maybe some other brands that they have, which are great brands and are doing well for them to degrees. They're just looking for more tools. And so what we're really trying to judge is who's the most aggressive, who's the most assertive, who do we think is going to put the most mind share and effort into helping us grow the brand as fast as we possibly can. And I would say, Harry, 8 out of 10 times that ends up being a Bud distributor, just because of the history of fallout of where Mark Anthony went and who was willing to sign them in the days, and where Boston Beer went and who was willing to sign them. Let's not forget that 25, 30, 40 years ago, Sam Adams Boston Lager was trying to become a national brand. And I think that what we saw, if you went back in time, what you would see is that they were probably having more success convincing Miller Coors distributors to bring that brand in. So then you fast forward 25, 30 years, Truly gets introduced as a new brand, not a brand extension, but that relationship is already there. And so I think, not to get too in the weeds, but I think we seemingly are benefiting a little bit from that, in that there's just a lot hungrier Bud distributors, not always, but in a lot of cases.
That totally makes sense. And, and the exception that proves the rule, of course, is San Antonio and Houston, where the Bud distributor does have mics, and
Benny Keith does as well in Dallas, who we're with.
Yep. Right. And they have, in Houston, in San Antonio, they have Constellation as well.
They do.
Very
they
unique.
Do. So they have a really strong seltzer portfolio already, but they were eager to bring us into the portfolio at all three of those distributors that you talked about. And again, it was a function of, I'll throw Brown and Austin there if you don't mind me editorializing, because if I could point out, if I could single out a distributor that's had the most success in the 10 days since we've launched, it's Brown and Austin, it's Benny Keith, it's Silver Eagle, Houston, San Antonio. They've all been great, and they're really they do have good seltzer portfolios. Now, again, I want to just be careful, right? We're not looking at Miller Coors distributors. I'll use Star Distributing in Connecticut. They have Truly and White Claw, and they got very aggressive, and I don't mean aggressive in a bad way. I mean, they got assertive. They were enthusiastic when they came to us and asked if we could, bring the brand into the portfolio. And I just appreciate that level of enthusiasm more than anything else. That tells us so much about how they're going to respond when the product gets to market, how enthusiastic they're going to be when the product gets to market. And we're obviously seeing that in some of the distributors that we have in Texas and other states.
I always say I shouldn't hog the mic. So Jordan, jump in when you're ready.
You always say it, but you always do it.
I know. I'm not saying I'm not guilty. I'm just acknowledging. At least I'm self-aware. How about that?
No, thank you, Harry. There was just a couple things I wanted to talk about, Sean. One of those being marketing. Here in San Antonio, we've seen billboards popping up, introducing the hard seltzer. And are y'all responsible for COOP? Are y'all responsible for all marketing of this brand?
We are, and we have a basic sort of business model, business ethic internally, that we spend roughly 10% of gross revenue, whether it was before Sonic or after Sonic, on external marketing. And so we have a robust.
That's high for. I think that's good. I mean, that's
I think
for revenue. Wow.
It is, but whether it's our COOP beer in Oklahoma or Sonic Seltzer, I know we say Sonic Seltzer has brand equity, but we've got to be committed to building a brand. We've got to be committed to growing a brand and growing revenue. And so, we went outside before Sonic launch. We went outside and brought a top-notch marketing director from New York City that's from here in Oklahoma City, wanted to come back to hopefully Oklahoma City to raise her kids and work in the industry here. She spent years with consumer packaged goods companies marketing. She spent years in the luxury watch industry and marketing, and she's really taken this marketing department to a whole nother level, a level that we never could have imagined before. And so, the commitment internally is roughly 10% of gross revenue to grow that brand. And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? That 10% will grow from top line dollars, but it'll generate top line dollars. And if it doesn't, we're not marketing. right. So maybe one day we lower that when we're in a maintenance mode, but right now we're in a high growth mode, and we want to invest in that growth. So that's just the commitment.
Yeah. And I mean, the out of home billboards, that makes perfect sense for these new launch states. Has marketing evolved in Oklahoma at all, where the brand has been around a little bit longer?
Yeah, I mean, we're spending a lot on out of home. We're spending a lot on a lot of other tactics. Some obviously very traditional ones that other brands, and not only in alc but in all categories, are doing things like search and social and a lot of those other things. And so, the reality is that this brand, from a demographic perspective, yeah, there's a lot of interest in this brand from the 21 to 35, that Gen Z millennial, and they consume media and marketing in a much different way than someone, my age or 49 or older does, and that's part of our demo too. But we've got to hit people where they consume marketing, and so it's a pretty broad-based approach towards digital, social, and traditional things like out of home and other tactics. So it's pretty broad based, and I'm not certainly going to get into the weeds in regards to like what tactics Marianne and her team are using, because she'd come down here and choke me. But it's pretty aggressive.
Your competitors want to hear.
I
mean, you don't have any competitors, really. I mean, if it's such a great business move that you guys did, because what am I trying to say? Biscuit.
But again, we do have a built-in constituency. And I think one of the things that I would point to is I look at Topo Chico, and I have been on the record as saying that the Topo Chico Molson Coors collaboration, that partnership is brilliant as well in my mind, because there's a built-in constituency at Topo Chico that Topo really is bringing new consumers into the seltzer space. And that is really undeniable when you look at things like Nielsen and IRI in places like Texas and Oklahoma, where that Topo is gaining share, but the two big guys are not losing volume, right? So what Topo is doing is bringing consumers in. So when you look at our 17 launch, when you look at our 12 in Oklahoma, literally almost every single every sale of Sonic in this market to this point has been a new consumer being pulled into this space. You're not seeing the two big guys lose volume. You're seeing them lose share. You're not seeing them lose volume. And so I think ultimately what my expectation is that Sonic Seltzer is and will continue to bring new people into the category, new consumers into the category, and that it will be mostly incremental. To some extent, yes, it will cannibalize the big guys. Maybe, hopefully.
No, I think the comparison to Topo is God, I don't know what's wrong with me today. Jordan, what did I smoke too much weed yesterday or something?
It's appropriate.
It's apropos. And because Topo is another one that's so popular and so iconic around here that people up north kind of don't get it. Like, especially the analysts in New York. They're like, I don't even know I've never even heard of Topo Chico. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's a big deal. And it's okay, Jordan, we've gone over, but Jordan, if you have another question, ask him. And then my final question is always, well, go ahead, Jordan.
Okay. Yeah. No, the last thing I wanted to talk about was just, innovation. And I know you're still introducing this brand to a lot of people. So there's really not a ton of need to innovate, but looking ahead, how much bigger do you think this portfolio is going to get? And are you thinking about new pack sizes? I mean, it's just 2 variety packs, right now.
It is. We will, as we enter into additional states in the first quarter of next year, and in the range of 10 to maybe as many as 20 new states hopefully in the first quarter, as we get closer to chain retail resets in the first quarter. That's really what we're going to be focused on, is getting those markets launched for our chain retailers nationally and regionally that we have great relationships with. So as we get towards that, we of course have the 2 variety packs now. We'll be adding a single 12-pack cherry limeade, a single 12-pack ocean water in all markets. We'll be adding 19.2 singles in both of those flavors as well. And we are currently working on a club pack for the club stores, 24-pack variety. So that would be, of course, more products or what would be considered innovations for 2022. I think you kind of touched on it in a way. In most of the markets we'll be going to, including the markets we just launched in, the innovation is Sonic Seltzer, right? That is the innovation. Now, that said, we have already started working on an innovation pipeline for spring of 2023 to try to bring brand extensions out into the Sonic space. And what Sonic does allow us, COOP, to do is to look for other partnerships, the way that Boston Beer or others look for other partnerships where they can collaborate with non-alc brands or alcoholic brands on different types of approaches. So I think ultimately the way I would best describe it is COOP is kind of moving from a branded house where everything from an equity perspective was attached to COOP as the brand, to a house of brands, similar to the way that Boston's done, similar to the way that New Belgium's done. And so there's no barriers, there's no artificial barriers to us there. We can spin off of Sonic and go find other partners that we can plug into this best-in-class distribution network. And that's what we're going to actively try to do. Grow Sonic, do more with Sonic, and then find other partners that will help us just by literally same truck, same route, same distributor, same stores, more product. Like that's a pretty easy model.
It's very scalable, and cherry Dr. Pepper. I think that's your next one.
I don't have any contacts in the local community that are executives at Dr. Pepper Keurig, but I'm open to. My phone is available.
Well, they subscribe, so you'll get a call tomorrow.
God bless you.
I know it's weird, like just anecdote. The last, right, Jordan, like in the last maybe 18 months, we've gotten a lot of subscribers from Pepsi and Coke, top executives that obviously they're interested in this space, and not a lot, but they both bought site licenses, and they're all readers now. Oh, well, good. Well, finally, chain. How have the chains been receptive, and have wherever the chain is based, does that skew their love of Sonic? In other words, like Kroger's up in Cincinnati or wherever, is that different than like an HEB down in San Antonio?
So the short answer is no. And then part of the risk about talking about chains is that you're going to leave one of your critical partners out. So
right. No, nobody wants to mention chains on this podcast.
But to your point, Kroger is in Cincinnati. But Kroger's in the business of carrying what the consumer wants in the local market where their stores are. And so in Texas, where Kroger is a significant retailer, they've gone all in on the brand. Both items, cold, displays, wherever you can see them. HEB is a regional brand out of San Antonio. Rusty's a great partner and has been for a very long time, and was very excited about this brand. Rusty Woodland, for those of you that don't know, is the beer buyer at HEB. Sorry to be
sure.
Dig in there, but Rusty's been a huge fan of the brand and leaned in really heavily on it. I just had drinks Monday night with a guy named Will Bliss, who's the Central Texas beer and wine manager for HEB. He informed us we're the #1 seltzer for the last 10 days in his stores in Central Texas at HEB.
Wow.
And the number 4 brand family there. So, I mean, initial excitement, of course, right? The rollout inflates the numbers, and we understand that. We've got to get that second buy and sustain it. But when you look at Walmart, Target, Sam's, Costco, I'm going to leave people out. They're all excited about the brand. They all see the potential of the brand. We're doing really great in small format in this territory. And we're even as we get into other markets, I talked about Michigan, for instance, which came out of the blue to us. Meijer is a huge player in Michigan and Ohio. They're very excited about the brand. Publix is a huge player in Georgia and the Southeast, and they're very excited about the brand. So again, I know that my chain account manager is going to come over here and punch me in the eye because I left some keychain out, and so I apologize in advance. But
listen, I understand. Sometimes when I wore a banquet hat on the podcast yesterday and got flamed for it. I get free hats. I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah, no, I understand. So we're listen, this wouldn't have been a venture that we would have been as excited about. No, excited is not the right word. We wouldn't have been as confident about it. We wouldn't have invested so heavily in 25 new employees on sales and marketing staff and all the things that you have to invest in to try to scale this business rapidly. we wouldn't have without the overt vocal support of the retail chains that are supportive of us. They got on early. They said, when you get wherever you get, let us know. We'll put you in. We're excited about the brand. And that is, that truly has been the foundation for every decision we've made in regards to investing in this venture moving forward.
I mean, and that's usually the hardest part, right? Is getting the retailers behind a new brand. But
I'm thankful that we here at COOP in Oklahoma had such strong relationships with our chains from the craft beer side that we were able to gain entry to show them the opportunity of Sonic, and there was instant recognition. And once those chains that we worked with started coming on board, then it just became the snowball effect with others. And so I never want to lose sight of the fact that the 12 years we spent building COOP in the Oklahoma market to a 12 share of craft here in the state, it is in fact the foundation that created what we're trying to build here, that we get to build off of with Sonic.
Right. Well, I talked to Rusty yesterday. I should probably cut this in post. Thank you for going over with us. I know we said 30 minutes and it's been 45, but it was fascinating, and that's a good sign. So we always end with a message of hope.
A message of hope. I mean, I think that we've all gone through a lot in the last year plus, right? We all know that, and we've all had a lot of conversations about how difficult it's been. But we went into the pandemic as a company believing that what we would do as a company coming out of the mini recession, the pandemic, is really accelerate up the last end of the hill. And I think that's the way that we approach the way that we're going to market. Is we're going to sprint the hardest, the last part of the hill, because that's where you gain momentum on the other side of it. And so I hope the analogy is not too too strained, but the reality is we're almost to the top of this hill, and if we can all sprint up the last part of it, we're all going to be a lot more successful on the backside.
Yeah, there's a lot of roadblocks that first year that you have to overcome, and it looks like you guys are on your way. So thanks for being on here. I really appreciate it, Sean. And can we shout back at you in a few months to see how it's going?
Anytime. Right. And we will hopefully we'll get the chance to share a beer or whatever you prefer at your gathering early next year. I'd look forward to going for the first time.
And this podcast is brought to you by the Beer Summit, January 30th, Hotel Del Coronado. Hope to see everybody there. And we are not going to simulcast it. You either have to be there or not. So
perfect. I'll be there.
Putting that out there. Biscuit will be there. You can see she's very excited as usual. All right. Well, thank you for drinking beer. Thank you for drinking seltzers, and thanks for being on. And we'll shout at you later, Sean. Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
All right. Bye-bye.